going on, everyone? Welcome, welcome. This is the Conscious Chicano. Just coming on here. It's been a while since I've been on here. So, the conscious chat will be on the topic of immigration. So, let me just see if this is actually working here. Let's see here. Can you? There you go. Okay. So it is working. Mic check, one, two. Mic check. All right. All right. So I hear myself just checking up on this thing. Uh, Let me see if I could get into the comments sections here. Um, just trying to see how I can access this. So welcome everyone. It's been a while since I've been on here, and um, trying to activate my live comments, but I don't see. Um, I don't see any live comments, but anyways, let's get to the topic. So immigration is the hot topic right now. Everyone's talking about it, this and that. You have both Republicans and Democrats talking about it. So let me give you my 2 cents. And let me see. Let me actually get to I actually have a new Facebook page if you guys are on Facebook. Um Search Chicano consciousness and you'll find some posts by me there. And I just want to read some of them, some of the posts there. So let me just go to it. Let me see. So, um, yeah, so I'm going to actually cover some stuff about the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo and also Cesar Chavez perspective on whole immigration stuff. So the way I am is like um, people see the whole immigration issue is either a Republican issue or a Democrat issue, and I look beyond that. I look beyond that, and I look at it from different lenses, but and I think I'll give you different angles, different perspectives on it. Um, Obviously, maybe I should just tell you the difference between the Republican and the Democrat view first, and I'll give you an indigenous view, and then maybe some various Chicano perspectives on it. So, um, so obviously, you got the Republican view of immigration, and which people are flared up by Trump's rhetoric and even his actions with ICE and everything. Actually, I live in a brown community out here, and there's been reports of ICE in certain in our brown communities out here, and they've been kind of like capturing brown folks and stuff like that, and the Republicans are claiming that they're going after criminals, and it might be the case that they're going after criminals, but then it's kind of like an excuse to go after even non-criminal, undocumented, um, migrants. They would call them immigrants, but so it's just kind of like their excuse to arrest everyone around who's not considered legal. So and so the Republicans are claiming they're going after criminals alone only, and they're just after criminals, and that there's a there's a problem with when Biden opened the borders and he just let a flood of foreigners come in, and so Trump is reacting and basically saying that that he needs to get these these immigrants that flooded came across the borders during the Biden administration. He needs to basically kick them out of the country, and they're claiming that they're going after just criminals and all that, and yeah, that's what they're claiming they're going after, so that's what they're saying right there. And there's some factions of Republicans saying that they're not really. They're claiming it's a mixed bag. I hear rhetoric going everywhere, but one of the rhetoric is that they're not after Mexicans. Um, that they're okay with Mexican, people who've already established themselves here. They're going after other foreigners. You know, this is what they're claiming. One of the ones that they're kind of after is the Venezuelans. You know, they're claiming that there's a Venezuelan gang, and they're committing crimes and stuff like that, and um so and also a lot of the Republicans are saying that the issue too is that you have these coyotes, and there's a lot of you know smuggling of immigrants in. There's they're saying there's sex trafficking. There's been trafficking of children, and supposedly drug smuggling and all that. So that's what the Republicans are saying right there, pretty much in a nutshell. Um, and then you got the Democrats out here. You know, you see Biden, and Biden just under his administration, he just purposely um, allowed a lot of foreigners come in. Um, and it's a mixed bag. Some of them are Mexicans, some of them are Central Americans, some of them are South Americans, some are from Africa, India, Middle East, Eastern Europe, um, Haiti, stuff like that. And he just flooded you know, a lot of the states out here with a lot of foreigners, and basically the Democrats are accusing Trump of being anti-immigrant, accusing the Republicans, a lot of Republicans, as being anti-immigrant and racist. And so you got those two opposing views right there, right? And here's like an indigenous perspective. I myself is Chicano and indigenous, and the way I see it is, even from anthropological studies, that indigenous brown folks have always been on this continent of the Americas. We've always been traveling, you know, throughout the Americas, for thousands of years, from northern North America to Mexico, Central America, South America, and you know, and it wasn't just one way. We're going up and down, east, west, west, east. We were just migrating everywhere. And it's always been like that until the Europeans came and invaded these lands, stole the land, established their boundaries, their borders, and now they accuse brown folks, indigenous people, of being illegal, right? They even called us, our people, wetbacks, right? when in fact the Europeans crossed the biggest ocean, right? Illegally in some sense, stealing people's land and committing genocide, right? So that's the indigenous perspective. Um, and then you got some Chicano perspective. So some of the Chicanos, do share that view of indigenous view right there. And but then there's people like Cesar Chavez who had an issue with sometimes with immigration as well, where he you had the the Anglos who usually owned the farms, because of stolen land, and then they ended up owning plots of land, and they would hire basically Mexican immigrants to basically work the fields, right? Basically cheap labor, right? And so Cesar Chavez saw the exploitation, so he with the UFW, you know, formed unions to unionize the workers to get paid even more, better wages. So they would go on strike at times. But what would happen is when they would go on strike, the whole purpose of the strike is to not allow the farmers to reap the benefits of the farm workers, right? It's a strike, right? But the farm owners would use a trick where they basically, if the farm workers didn't want to work and were protesting and striking for better wages, what the farm owners would do is hire other immigrants to do their cheap labor, right? So this created a conflict between new coming immigrants and the ones who are already been established here who want better wages. So Cesar Chavez got you know irritated by that and even opposed new immigrants coming in and trying to fill the jobs of farm workers who were trying to get better wages. So there was that kind of conflict occurring, and that can be a complexity of immigration, right? And it probably still happens to this very day too, as well. Um, but um, there seems to be on one side. So actually, the Republicans in the past, like you had Bush and Reagan, which kind of strange because you would think that it was Democrats that are ones that led a lot of undocumented immigrants to become citizens, and that has been not accurate completely. Like actually, there was Republican presidents like Reagan and Bush. Even though I don't like Bush for his whole 9/11 nonsense, 9/11 was the inside job. But Reagan and Bush actually allowed a lot of Mexicans to become citizens. And actually know some people who were Mexican who became citizens because of Reagan back in the 80s, right? So it's people just paint the Republicans as all bad and evil, and sometimes there's certain things that challenge that narrative, right? So we got to stop painting all Republicans as bad and evil, right? um and so and on the contrary, so far the record of Obama actually holds the record of deportations, and he's a Democrat liberal, right? So that's interesting too. That challenges the whole narrative that Democrats are the ones who are, leading the cause and all that. But that's not the case. You got Obama, who's a Democrat liberal, and he led the most, deportations. So and and so there was actually, I was watching some videos by Jimmy Dore. He's actually pretty good. He was exposing the whole issue and everything, and he actually played some good clips of Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Obama repeating the same rhetoric as Trump, and basically, you know, as what everyone accuses Trump as being the most evil villain around, which is just propaganda in my point of view, a lot of liberal propaganda. But you see, Jimmy Dore, showed recordings of Obama, Hillary, Bill Clinton saying this almost practically the same thing, you know. And matter of fact, I saw a video recording too by Jimmy Dore. Biden was saying some racist stuff about immigrants, and I think they took down that video. Probably YouTube took it down or something like that. But I should have actually downloaded it. But I remember watching that and I was like, "What?" So you would expect this from Republicans, right? But no, it's these Democrat liberals. You know, that's why I say both parties are corrupt. Both of them. But I think there's a lot of propaganda going on here, where it's the liberal media and even some of these Democrat activists who are basically trying to make Trump look like a villain, the most evil villain of all, and when in fact they don't want to look at the facts. They don't want to look at and whenever, like, you didn't even see protests like these when Biden was in office, right? When Obama was in office, right? You hardly heard any of this going on. There is propaganda here. Um so and I'm not a Trump defender myself either, I don't agree with Trump on other issues. He has some good issues that he's actually doing some good stuff on certain issues, but there's some bad stuff too. But I also call out the Democrats and the liberals too on their nonsense too. And do Mexicans have a right to protest? Yeah, they do have a right to protest, but you know, there's also, ways to try to make change too. Like, I know the system is very discriminatory and racist towards brown folks, because there is a bias of allowing the rich and usually Europeans a more faster route to become citizens than for, say, Mexicans who actually have been living here for a long time, have a long history here. This was actually Mexico before United States, right? Um, and it's like they've been here and living here for a long time and working hard, and not all of them are drug dealers and criminals and all that. A lot of them are actually family orientated, but they're still given a hard time in a slower rate of becoming citizens. So there is a discriminatory pathway to citizenship that it is still happening to this very day. It's in favor of those who are rich and usually of European descent. Um, yeah, but here's the thing: is just there's some monkey wrenches going on here, because and I'm gonna tell you what the whole monkey wrench bunch of, I mean, the little there's some interesting stuff in this whole immigration issue. So I remember RFK Jr. posted a video of him going to the border, and he wanted to see who was actually crossing the border more than anything else. And he found out people would expect it was mostly Mexicans, right? But what he found out, it was mostly people of other ethnicities. Like he had, um, obviously, you did have some South Americans, but you had a lot of Africans, uh, Haitians, Indians from India. You had Middle Easterns. You had Chinese. Um, you had people from Eastern Europe. So that's what he saw, right there. So, um, so that's something interesting right there, you know. And from a Chicano perspective, I would have an issue with that because I think even some Native Americans, I think they would have an issue with that too because, um, you know, um, the more foreigners you have coming to this land, like especially they're not indigenous to the Americas, um, they end up populating, these lands and these communities, right? And they end up taking our resources, our land, our our jobs, and all that. They even kind of push out our populations too, you know, or even trying to mix with our populations and even as indigenous communities, we have to preserve our communities, right? Like if we, I mean, it's like yeah, the issue is like if we keep letting these foreigners come in and populating and taking over the resources and territories, they're eventually going to push us out, right? And so there is an issue with that, right? Um, so um, the way I am is from a Chicano perspective. I'm okay with brown people coming in, here, you know, and I do have an issue with some brown people who are criminals too and doing some negative stuff. Do I believe they should be deported? Yeah. Why not? Why not? You know, but if you're here working hard, and you're doing your best to be, you know, to improve yourself and your family and all that, yeah, I do believe that you should be given the opportunity to become a citizen, you know, and not at a slow pace either, like, but yeah, that's there is an issue right there with these other foreigners coming to these lands and everything, um, and taking up our resources and territories out here. Um, Here's another thing. Okay, so we got the whole RFK thing exposing that. Um, the other issue is that okay, there it seems like ICE is targeting a lot of Mexican communities. Um, you do see some videos of I saw a video of a Haitian guy who was a gang member and he was being deported. There's supposedly some reports of some guy, a bunch of people from India getting deported, right? Some Venezuelans were deported and sent to Guantanamo Bay, right? I think they were saying that they were criminal gang members, right? Uh, whether they were being treated as, such as usually people who are sent to Guantanamo Bay are like, I don't know, you know, I can't even say that word on here because they might, ban this YouTube. But you know which one with the TS. I can't even say the whole word, but the algorithms here. Um, but they treat them as such. Maybe I don't know. I don't know how they're treating the Venezuelan gangsters over there in Guantanamo Bay. Um, so yeah, so that's it was in the news, um, and yeah, we don't know, like what their criminal background is or anything like that. So they might be criminals. Who knows? Um, but that's something interesting because I mean, and then you got videos that are going viral where okay, they're like Trump is saying they're going after criminals and stuff like that, and but then there's some videos of people who are not even criminals. They're taking like women and they're capturing them to deport them, right? But then I heard that some of them are being released. So what is the truth of all this? What's the truth of all this? Some people are being deported and some are being released. So I don't know what the truth is on all of this. It's a lot of monkey wrenches everywhere. And I know the liberal media likes to hype up everything to get one to hate Trump. And in fact, the Democrats and liberals are more sneaky. Trump is all he. A lot of times he's fiery with his rhetoric, but he won't do. He kind of like makes everybody happy, right? He'll say some extreme stuff, but then his actions don't really always match what he says, right? He's kind of he's double-minded at times. So you sometimes you don't know exactly what he's gonna do until he does it, right? So I actually looked into this. I actually used AI to try to find out the facts about the number of people being deported, and I compared them. And I was trying to find out like who deported the most, right? Between Trump, Biden, and Obama, right? And all the different AIs actually told me Obama deported the most ever, right? And then also who deported the most between Trump and Biden when they were president. And they basically said it was almost around the same amount, but I've actually heard that the difference is Trump would stop people at the border from coming in, and this was during his last presidency, whereas Biden would let them flood in, but he had more deported, like once they already came in here, like they crossed the border, but then he deported them, right? So, and don't forget the main guy of ICE was appointed by Obama too. So we got to stop just looking at Republicans as being anti-immigrant, but we also got to look at the sneaky Democrat liberals out here too, you know, because there's a lot of hype to hate on Trump, but where are the protests when the Democrats are in office, right? When the liberals are in office, right? Where are those, So there's something going on here. And it's kind of strange that Biden allowed all these foreigners to flood in here, you know. Was he setting up Trump to react this way to make him look bad? Or is it all a game? It's just a dialectical game, right? Just like you got Democrats for 4 years, Republicans 4 years, Democrats 4 years. It just goes back and forth, right? It's like, they cause the chaos and then they bring the order. Problem, reaction, solution, right? So, so they're just playing games with us, right? Both sides, right? Just basically they have agendas though. There's a whole agenda behind this whole thing. and a lot of us are trying to figure it out. And there's some possible agendas, and I'm not saying it's absolute, but there's some interesting stuff coming from a lady named Whitney Webb, and she's saying that they basically want to cause all this chaos and drama to establish what's called a digital ID system. And basically, they're going to use that as an excuse of the immigration problem to implement a digital ID system where they could track and trace who's a citizen and who isn't, right? And so eventually they want to not only use it for that, but eventually expand it to, you know, um, the globe eventually. And this is where you get this whole kind of like this mark of the beast type stuff, going on. So also with Whitney Webb and the other people are I think there's this guy named World Alternative News. I actually listen to him sometimes. He mentions that that they want to also create a North American Union or something like that. So they want to have Canada, United States, and Mexico unify as one. And Marco Rubio recently announced something like that, where there's there's gonna be sections of the globe, and they're gonna form unions. So you're gonna have like a North American Union, the European Union. You're gonna have like an African Union, and all different spots around the world, and they're all basically gonna form like kind of like a global new world order, right? Um, so this might be their agenda right there. So just keep an eye out. So, there's a lot of stuff coming out, and another issue is that I hear sometimes liberals and Democrats, they're even kind of using the whole Native American issue, where um I hear some Native Americans saying that Trump wants to take away their sovereignty or their citizenship in some sense, or I guess what it is they're saying that supposedly Trump believes um that Native Americans are they pay allegiance to their tribe and not the United States, so therefore they're not citizens. So they don't I guess reap the benefits of being a citizen. So, and there's been supposedly complaints that some Native Americans have been captured for deportation, all that. I don't know how true all that is, because there's sometimes liberal agendas being pushed. So, um, I would have to, look deeper into that issue. But um, I would think that, okay, maybe some Native Americans are mistakenly thought of as being immigrants because they, obviously brown folks look like each other, right? Native Americans, Mexicans, Central Americans, we all kind of look like each other. So maybe they mistaken them, but even that is still racial profiling, right? I heard that even some Chicanos have been deported, so um, that might be the case, and they found out they were legal and they came back, right? It's kind of like that movie Born in East LA. Actually, speaking of movies, yeah, go check it out. It's a funny comedy, Born in East LA. There's actually another interesting thing, A Day Without a what's it? A Day Without a Mexican. That one's pretty interesting. I think they this past Monday they actually had something like that where all immigrants were not to work and not to is basically boycott everything. And the actually the movie was interesting. So it disrupted the agricultural system when Mexicans didn't show up, and a lot of you know a lot of the what is they call it, the what the Marxists say, that was you got the bourgeoisie, and then the proletariat, a lot of the workers didn't show up, so it disrupts their whole, kind of like their whole system in some sense, you know. So, and I know there's been a lot of protests lately everywhere. Will protesting change? I mean, it does make a statement, but then when you start doing those dumb donuts around, you know, I think that's not too smart right there. People get hit by those donuts, and and then they're watching us, right? The media now, they're seeing our people spray painting the freeways and all that, and um, you know, I don't think that's the right response, but you know, they have a right to protest, but you know, doing donuts and stuff like that, and and I think there were some were saying that they were throwing stuff at the police and all that, and doing stuff like that. I mean, yeah, that's not gonna prove anything, man. It's just I think there's other ways to go about making change. Um, it's you could be a peaceful protester without causing damage and everything, because that's what they're looking for. They want to videotape you doing that so they can say, "Hey, look at these guys. Look at them. These are immigrants, right? Look at them spray painting the walls, vandalizing everything. Look at them. So that just like you buy into their whole narrative, right? Um. So yeah. So the whole thing on Native Americans losing their citizenship, their sovereignty. I don't think that's gonna happen, man. Seriously, I think that's a little bit more exaggerated there than anything else. I think that even might be liberal propaganda. But so let me actually go into that little post I have on Chicano consciousness on Facebook. There's some interesting stuff that I came across. So let me just read this. So I just mentioned it earlier. Cesar Chavez controversial position on immigration. So let me just read it here. Why did Cesar Chavez oppose immigration? Cesar Chavez is widely celebrated as a champion of farm workers' rights, but a lesser known aspect of his activism is his opposition to immigration, particularly undocumented immigration. His stance was not based on racial or anti immigrant sentiment, but rather on his fight for fair wages and better working conditions for farm workers. Okay. So there's a point here: protecting unionized farm workers. As the leader of the UFW United Farm Workers, Chavez fought to secure better wages and conditions for American farm workers. However, he saw undocumented immigration as a threat to these efforts because employers often hired undocumented workers as strike breakers, weakening the union's bargaining power. Chavez argued that growers intentionally used undocumented workers to keep wages low and undermine farm worker strikes. Point number two, opposition to guest worker programs. Chavez was strongly against the Bracero program, 1942 through 1964, which brought Mexican laborers to the U.S. on temporary work contracts. He believed the program was exploitive and made it harder for farm workers already in the U.S. to demand better wages and conditions. Chavez called for strict border enforcement to prevent employers from replacing unionized workers with undocumented laborers who would work for lower wages. Point number three, illegals hurt us campaign. in the 1970s, Chavez and the UFW even launched campaigns against illegal immigration, sometimes reporting undocumented workers to immigration authorities. His cousin, Manuel Chavez, helped organize the illegal Herd Us campaign, which involved UFW patrols along the border to discourage illegal crossings. Number four, his later views, although Chavez opposed undocumented immigration as a labor strategy, his stance softened over time. Later, he advocated for immigration reform, a better and better protections for undocumented workers, realizing they too were being exploited by owners. Conclusion: Chavez fought for workers, not against people. Cesar Chavez's opposition to immigration was rooted in worker solidarity, not xenophobia. He wanted fair wages and dignity for all farm workers and saw illegal immigration as a tool used by corporations to exploit labor. Over time, his focus shifted towards immigration reform rather than restriction. So that's interesting right there, what I discovered there. So obviously, what's crazy is that throughout history, you had the United States, especially corporations like, the farm owners and different types of, you know, corporations that hire um, cheap labor, like some of these maquiladores, factories and all that. Like they uh they use Mexicans for their cheap labor to rather hardly pay them anything than to pay someone some decent wages, right? This is how corporations function. So you had the United States and corporations actually bringing in Mexicans for cheap labor, and then once they build their empire, right, they no longer need use of cheap labor, and so they kick them back out, right? And they start deporting them. But then when they need some more empire building, they they uh they they actually ask them to come back and start building their empire. And then when they no longer need them, they deport them and get rid of them. So it's like a back and forth thing, and this happens with Republicans and Democrats. There's a problem with that, and there is a lot of issues, you know. But yeah, it's just our people are being exploited as cheap labor. That's the reality there. But then, they do come in, they want, to make a living too. They've been sold this American dream BS, but some of them are really poor. And usually it's indigenous people, right? And um so yeah, this is they're kind of, in desperate situations. So, they want to make a living, right? And feed their families. So, but then at the same time, they get exploited and all that cheap labor. This is why Cesar Chavez fought for, labor rights and higher wages and everything. And, sometimes the, the owners of, you know, the farm workers and all that, they use division and divide and conquer, and their end goal is to just exploit and make the most money out of the cheapest labor. Then once they're done with us, they kick us out, right? And then when they need us again, they want us back. Yeah, it's crazy. But that's, some interesting stuff that I posted there. I just want people to realize, it's very complex. It's a mixed bag. It's not about Democrats and Republicans. It's a deeper issue, you know. Another thing is, I actually came across a post by one of the brown beret guys. What's his name? Dr. Hernandez, and he was mentioning something about the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. So, um, let's see here. Um, So I just want to, kind of read what I post on Chicano consciousness. Um, Let me just read it to you. Did you know the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo protects Mexican land? Actually, let me read it. Did you know the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo protects Mexican land, rights, and citizenship? On February 2nd, 1848, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo ended the U.S. Mexico War and guaranteed protections for Mexicans living in the newly acquired U.S. territories, including California, Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico. Point number one, land and property rights. Article, was it 5, 6, 7, 8? Article 8 and 9 promised that Mexican landowners would retain their properties and not be deprived of their rights. However, through legal loopholes and discrimination, many lost their land, right? So the United States signed this treaty with Mexico, but yet they use their legal machinations to to discriminate against people of Mexican descent, and they even lost their land. So they actually owe us land. The United States. Talk about reparations, right? They owe us land, right? Point number two: civil rights and citizenship. The treaty granted U.S. citizenship to Mexicans who chose to stay in the new territories, ensuring the same rights and protections as other American citizens. Unfortunately, systemic racism and unjust laws later undermined these promises. See, so yeah, they use their system of white supremacy and their laws, their courts to basically you know to to basically override the promises kept by the kept actually deemed by the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. Um, so yeah, so it granted U.S. citizenship to Mexicans, and they deported a lot of Mexicans, right? And that's the reality. They deported even so-called citizens who were of Mexican descent, right? So yeah, they were doing this in from the beginning. Point number three, that was two. Number three, cultural and linguistic protections. The treaty also assured that the traditions, language, and customs of Mexican communities would be respected. Yet history shows efforts to suppress them. Okay. So yeah, um, that's what they did. They tried pushing their Anglo, you know, cultural, well, their Anglo imperialism on us, and so obviously they wanted to culturally castrate us. Uh, but yeah, Mexican culture still thrives. You see it over here. Out here in Los Angeles, you see a lot of Mexican culture everywhere. As much as hard as they tried, oppressing us, we still remained intact and thriving. We're still here. So understanding this history is essential. The fight for civil rights and land justice continues today. Let's honor this treaty by advocating for the rights and heritage it was meant to protect. So that's interesting about the whole Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. You know, So it guaranteed protections, civil rights, citizenship, land and property rights, cultural and linguistic protections, but yet they still found ways to undermine all that, right? Through their white supremacist courts, through their so-called laws, their whole system of white supremacy and all that. So yeah, so I just wanted to just read that from my new Facebook page, Chicano Consciousness. And definitely the whole immigration issue is very complex. There's a lot of stuff going on. Um, you got the indigenous perspective is that brown folks have always been here on this land. We're not foreigners. We've always been, migrating to and fro. When you study anthropology, you find out that there's a connection between Mesoamerica and the Southwest natives. You know, there's a lot of linguistic, the Uto Aztecian language lineage from North America, the United States, and to Mesoamerica, Mexico, Central America, cultural. You got the turquoise road, those trade of turquoise and all kinds of like different cultural elements, you know. There's stories, there's oral tradition. You have the people traveling, natives traveling. There's all kinds of evidence in the United States of Mesoamerica and all that. So we were trading back and forth, traveling, follow the maize and all that, you know, the ball courts and all that. I mean, temple mounds, all that stuff. You find all kinds of evidence of, you know, people, they're all related, and so to say that we're foreigners to these lands is nonsense. And then we have the issue of Europeans coming over here, taking the land, robbing, committing genocide, setting up their system, a colonial system, setting up their borders and telling people who's illegal and who isn't. So they're trying to act like the land overlords. And then not it's not only that though. They they allow even other non-indigenous foreigners to occupy this land and resources and take our jobs as brown folks. So, obviously they even pit us against them too. They know it causes division. They'll have us divided and they'll exploit both of us and they'll rule us, control and rule. um but the issue too is that they they go and create refugees too. So the US does imperialist stuff in other countries. They topple other governments and they cause refugees to come over here to the United States. Then they complain that all these immigrants are flooding the United States. So, first of all, you know, what's the root of all this, right? The root is don't be toppling other people's governments around the world and jacking their resources so they won't flee over here, right? For the so-called American dream, which is just a dream. You have to be asleep to dream, right? Um, but and then they come to this country and realize, hey, wait a minute, it's no American dream. There's a lot of this system is very um colonial and white supremacist. There's a caste system here too as well. But definitely you have the issue of exploitation. Immigration involves that it does There's issues at the border too. People are being sex trafficked, missing children, uh, drug smuggling, and all that. And a lot of Republicans blame point at the cartels, but then the cartels they get weapons from the United States. Um, and then the whole drug smuggling, the United States is involved in a lot of that demand, creating that demand. That drug smuggling wouldn't exist if it wasn't for rich people buying those drugs. Same thing with sex trafficking. They said that most of the sex trafficking is paid by um, the rich Anglo Americans or even the rich elites around the world. So, but yeah, it's just even what's his name? Gary Webb exposed the whole drug smuggling stuff. You guys look into Gary Webb, and he exposed the government involved in smuggling cocaine um, from Latin America to over here to the United States. So Gary Webb, if you guys look at him, go check out his documentaries or information about him. He exposed a lot of stuff. But yeah, it's just interesting. This whole immigration issue, is very complex. Um, you know, um, Sometimes I'm pro and sometimes I'm against. Like I'm pro indigenous people being here on these lands, but I'm against, you know, uh, people who are committing atrocious crimes and stuff like that. But then I'm a lot of pro. It's like I believe a lot of indigenous immigrants that come here. A lot of them are hardworking. They don't want to even get caught, so they don't want to even be all chaotic and criminal. They want to work hard and stuff like that, and they're just kind of living under the radar, right? But a lot of them even become family orientated, even conservative too. Um, it's just later on their kids get all institutionalized and become liberal. But so but then I'm against immigration when it comes to like other foreigners coming over here and flooding the United States and taking up our jobs and resources and land. And even the taxpayer money has to go into supporting these immigrants. And not only that, we create refugees. Even some of these people that get political asylum is an issue too. Like they allowed all these Ukrainians in, and yet they complain about hardworking Mexicans who pretty much have been here even before the United States that have been working the land and all that. So yeah. So it seems like the way the Anglos are, the Europeans in the United States is like they talk about immigrants. And sometimes they'll use the trickery. Oh, I'm not against Mexican immigrants. I'm against every other immigrant, right? But then they send ICE after they send them in Mexican communities, right? That's an issue right there. Um, but then it's like a lot of these Anglos will say, they'll love our food, right? They'll love our food and our culture at times. They even sometimes want to be Mexican, right? Or Chicano, right? But then it's like they want to deport us or deport our people, right? Or discriminate against us, right? So yeah, this whole issue is very complex. and and I think it's um as long as Europeans colonize and occupy this land, it's always going to be an issue, right? Because they think they're the overlords of these this land, and they could determine who's legal and who isn't, and all that. So yeah, we're always going to have an issue with this. But I don't buy into this hype though. All this hype, and it's because of the liberal media. And, where was all this media and protests when Biden and Obama were deporting people, right? Where was all the protests and uproar, right? So there is an agenda. There is an agenda, and it could either to make Trump look bad and to undermine him, so they can try to impeach him or something like that, or it's a dialectic where Biden and Trump are all on this agenda, and they love the chaos, right? So they create the chaos, you react with protests, and they'll give the solution. And we gotta look for that solution. It might be digital IDs, it might be the abolishment of the border to create a North American Union, aka a new world order. Um, and even that's an issue too. Like if you abolish the border, like I heard some Chicanos who are pro border and they were involved, they were activists too. And they said, you know what? Actually, the border prevents United States from invading Mexico, right? There's some liberals out there who are claiming that the United States is gonna try to take over Mexico. I think is something about, you know, they asked Trump, "Oh, are you gonna send the military after the cartels?" And then he goes, maybe it's a possibility or something like that. I'm not quoting exact words, but I think it's a possibility. So the liberals went and spun that and said, "Oh, and Trump wants to take over Mexico and all that." And I don't know if that's true. I don't think that's true. But there is an issue of Trump trying to rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of the Americas. I mean, I don't know. There's an issue with that too. So yeah, it's just but I don't buy into the hype. So maybe Trump is on in with this, he knows what he's doing, right? Biden and Trump, right? They all know what they're doing. They're all manipulating, right? They cause the chaos, you react in uproar and anger and protest, right? Then they offer the solution, right? We got to look and see what that solution is, right? Keep an eye out. They have agendas out here, you know. Look into that, you know. See what they're trying to do behind the scenes or in reaction to all that. So, I just say just dig deeper into this whole immigration issue. It's very complex, it's a mixed bag. Go beyond the Democrat and Republican point of view and look at the complexities, look at the different perspectives. Um, you know, and um yeah, I mean, and the way I see it is that everyone I see two sides. You even have like Chicano Trumpers regurgitating you know, regurgitating Anglo Trumpers, right? The Anglo American Trumpers, right? And then you got these Chicana liberals repeating a lot of what the the Anglo liberals are saying too. And the way I say is don't be manipulated by any of those. They're all corrupt. Think deeply about this, the complexities, and try to unravel the agendas, the truth behind this all. Try to look at the bigger picture and see, see what's really going on here. And I guess I'll just end it with a saying, it's like we didn't cross the borders crossed us. And I totally agree with that. As you guys don't see, I have actually a hat right here. It says "Make America Native Again." Make America Native Again. I actually have a shirt like that too. Let's check it out. So again, make America native again. I say that. That's the browning of America. This is what they don't want. That's why they target Mexican communities. They want to deport them, right? Because the more we populate in the Americas, the more we reclaim our land, the Americas, right? We reclaim position of power. Well, that's the goal. The goal is to have more. It's inevitable. This is going to be more of a browning of America, and you know, eventually, we're going to get into positions of power. We're going to accumulate more wealth and land and resources. This is the goal of us Mexicans, Chicanos out here. So the thing is we don't want to be cheap labor anymore, right? It's time for us to start acquiring wealth, land, power, and resources. Start building those skills, right? Start getting more educated, right? You know, start getting those degrees, start learning some skills that are going to make you money, learn some entrepreneurship, business skills, marketing skills. Um, you know, just look into building wealth, resources, land, empire. We need to stop being the cheap labor out here. Start educating your kids too, your future generation, right? Teach them, hey, there's other ways to make money, you know, the legit route, you know, and we need to inspire our new future generations out here and people around us, even older ones that are broke and poor and don't have too much resources. If you have that knowledge and wisdom to make money and all that, go teach them those skills, man. Get involved in your community. Do some workshops, some trainings, right? And go teach these, youngsters or older people or whatever, like the poor, those who need help, and especially the brown communities. Start supporting each other, hooking each other up, right? That's what we need more of that, and so that eventually we become a wealthier people and well respected people, not just respected for we have the stereotype, oh, Mexicans are hard workers, right? But hard workers means cheap labor, right? So we need to become hard workers in terms of higher skills, right? Higher skills that are gonna make you more wealth and money. That's gonna so you can accumulate more assets and be more of a prosperous people. So that's the end result, end goal right there. That's what we should be striving for as a people. Yeah, definitely. Anyways, I want to end this topic on immigration. Again, we didn't cross the borders, the borders crossed us. Go spread that consciousness. This is the Conscious Chicano, and I'm out.